If you remember, you'll never forget. Very fine people on both sides. Or, I don't care, do you? Or the suggestion of injecting bleach. Keep watching for more unforgettable moments from Donald Trump's presidency. Donald Trump's presidency was a roller coaster ride of scandals, lies, and impeachment hearings. But one of the Republicans' most blatantly false claims happened only days into his term, when the former president insisted that the audience for his inauguration was bigger than Barack Obama's.
I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1.5 million people.
In a speech at the CIA, Trump criticized the media's estimate that only 250,000 people had attended. Photographs of the crowd looked unflatteringly sparse compared to the 1.8 million people who showed up for Obama's inauguration. When they kept being compared online, Trump requested a new version of the photos the next day, and as a communications official recalled, the implication was that they had to be edited to make it look like there were more spectators in the crowd, according to The Guardian.
And they said Donald Trump did not draw well. I said, it was almost raining.
One of the first shocking moments in Donald Trump's presidency came after a white supremacist Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, ended in major violence. As Vox reported, the 2017 rally had been organized in response to the impending removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville. The man who actually filed the permits so that the demonstration could go ahead, Jason Kessler, championed pro-white advocacy. So when an admitted white supremacist drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters and ended a woman's life, the nature of this rally should have been clear. However, the president felt the need to protect the white supremacist groups who appeared in Charlottesville. Trump condemned hatred, bigotry, and violence, according to Politico, but also claimed,
"But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides."
He also insisted that there had been, in his words, an alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right. "I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups.
Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch."
According to CNBC, during his campaign, Trump controversially stated that there should be a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on. On January 27, 2017, he lived up to his promise by signing an executive order that caused chaos in airports across the United States for days. As the ACLU summarized, Trump's order banned foreign nationals from 7 predominantly Muslim countries from visiting the country for 90 days, suspended entry to the country of all Syrian refugees indefinitely, and prohibited any other refugees from coming into the country for 120 days. Since the First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion, many were quick to call this so-called Muslim ban unconstitutional. A federal judge in Seattle temporarily prevented the order from being passed nationwide. According to NPR, however, around 60,000 visas were already revoked by the time Judge James Robart managed to halt the process in federal court. Some Americans never particularly warmed to Melania Trump in the role of First Lady. According to a poll by CNN and SSRS, she left the White House with the lowest approval ratings of any president's wife. 47% of people polled disapproved of her. In June 2018, on her way to visit a child detention center, the First Lady was criticized for wearing a green Zara jacket that read, "I really don't care, do you?" As The Guardian reported, many thought that she was displaying a chilling lack of empathy toward refugee children who had been separated from their families by Donald Trump's administration. Both the president and the First Lady responded. Donald Trump tweeted at the time, "I really don't care, do you?" Written on the back of Melania's jacket refers to the fake news media. Melania has learned how dishonest they are, and she truly no longer cares.
"I wore the jacket to go on the plane and off the plane."
Melania told ABC News that the press should have focused more on her actions than her clothing. She went on to say, "It was for the people and for the left-wing media who are criticizing me, and I want to show them that I don't care."
You could criticize whatever you want to say, but it will not stop me to do what I feel it's right.
For a president, it's very rare to be impeached. It only happened twice in U.S. history before Donald Trump, who went through 2 impeachment trials in 1 presidential term. In December 2019, Trump faced charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress after it was alleged that he had asked foreign powers to interfere in the upcoming 2020 election. The investigation had been sparked by a whistleblower, Alexander Vindman, who testified about a phone call where Trump had tried to pressure President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine into investigating Trump's likely opponent, Joe Biden, and his son. Vindman later wrote in The Atlantic, I could hardly believe what I was hearing. The president was brazenly involving not only himself, but also Attorney General Barr, as well as his personal attorney Giuliani, in a wholly improper effort to subvert U.S. foreign policy in order to gain an election. In the end, the Senate didn't reach the 67 votes it needed to convict Trump. 48 senators supported a guilty verdict, as opposed to the 52 senators who voted that he was innocent. Only one Republican, Mitt Romney, made history by breaking party ranks to vote against Trump. Trump's second impeachment came in the wake of the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. The official charge was incitement of insurrection. The Senate voted 57 to 43 for conviction, but it wasn't enough for the required two-thirds majority. One of the most devastating natural disasters in recent history happened in 2017 when Hurricane Maria hit the Caribbean, causing devastation in Puerto Rico. Donald Trump's administration was heavily criticized for its slow response at the time. According to The Guardian, the government delayed more than $20 billion in relief to Puerto Rico through red tape and restrictions. As Time reported, the mayor of San Juan, Carmen Cruz, made headlines when she addressed Trump in an emotionally charged press conference saying, "I'm begging you, begging anyone that can hear us to save us from dying. If anybody out there is listening, we are dying, and you are killing us with the inefficiency.
I beg you to take charge and save lives."
The president hit back by tweeting about Cruz's poor leadership, according to Politico, and claimed on Twitter, the mayor, as well as others in Puerto Rico, want everything to be done for them.
I gave this award the Trump Attack Me on Twitter Hall of Fame award.
The Washington Post later uncovered that Trump had told officials he didn't want any money going to Puerto Rico, as he believed their leaders were corrupt. He eventually visited the island in October, but was criticized for his flippant comments.
I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack because we've spent a lot of money on Puerto Rico, and that's fine. We've saved a lot of lives.
He later claimed that he was, quote, the best thing that ever happened to Puerto Rico, as the New York Times reported. One policy from Donald Trump's administration turned out to be particularly unpopular. In 2018, then Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced that children would be taken away from anyone crossing the southern border, a policy that led to a total of more than 4,300 kids being separated from their families, according to the Los Angeles Times. Trump tried to deflect the negative attention by blaming the Democrats, according to Time magazine, insisting that they wouldn't negotiate over immigration law. After claiming that he hated seeing children removed from their parents, he said,
If the Democrats would sit down instead of obstructing, we could have something done very quickly.
When COVID-19 started shutting down the entire country in 2020, Trump began giving briefings about the situation to the press. One particular cringeworthy moment happened in April of that year, when the president suggested that disinfectant could be a possible treatment. After introducing scientific experts who talked about how surfaces could be sanitized with disinfectant, Trump decided to share his own thoughts.
So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light.
He added that it might be possible to bring the light inside the body in some way. Then he mused, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocked it out in a minute, 1 minute. The president insisted that it would be interesting to try using disinfectant to treat the virus, theorizing that it would do, quote, a tremendous number on the lungs.
And is there a way we can do something like that? Injection inside or almost a cleaning.
Trump immediately faced criticism for his dangerous suggestion from around the world, and even from some of the people on stage with him. Dr. Deborah Birx, his response coordinator at the time, sat at the side and could only watch as her president shared misinformation. She later told ABC, "You could see how extraordinarily uncomfortable I was."
Frankly, I didn't know how to handle that episode. I still think about it every day.
During the last year of Donald Trump's presidency, COVID-19 overwhelmingly became America and the world's biggest problem. And in October 2020, the virus reached the White House. As CNN reported, Trump and his wife Melania admitted they had tested positive only a few days after the president had mocked his rival Joe Biden for wearing a mask during their debate.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
The Trumps weren't the only high-profile Republicans who caught the virus. Politicians like Chris Christie and Kellyanne Conway also shared their positive results, as well as numerous aides. As the New York Times reported, the president received an experimental treatment at the Walter Reed Medical Center. Although his doctor remained cagey about the details of Trump's medical care at the time, his oxygen did drop to the 80s, and there was talk of putting him on a ventilator. On October 5th, he appeared maskless on the White House balcony to show that he was out of the hospital. According to CNN, he later told viewers not to fear the virus and added, "As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led." Many of Donald Trump's supporters refused to accept the results of the election, as the world saw on January 6, 2021, when a mob stormed the Capitol building. The protesters behind the deadly riots later argued that Trump wanted them to stop the Senate from approving Joe Biden's election. During his speech, Donald had acknowledged their plans.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
But Trump also had used more violent language, urging the crowd to fight for the result they wanted. He said, "We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue."
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen.
Even after news outlets had reported that the crowd had brought a noose for Mike Pence, Donald didn't even call his vice president to make sure he was safe, according to the Washington Post. Despite the shocking footage, Trump didn't seem in any rush to condemn his supporters. After it was announced that a woman had died, he called the crowd great patriots and blamed the violence on the election being, in his words, viciously stripped away from them. The ensuing violence was a bizarre end to Trump's presidency and led to another first. He became the first president to ever be impeached twice. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite celebs are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.